Today, we're going to be telling you something that people believe about Bitcoin that's absolutely not true. This is the biggest myth that people believe about Bitcoin. Stay tuned. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, your one-stop shop for Bitcoin and crypto news. We got all kinds of contest details going up above me here in a few seconds. Make sure you guys check all that stuff out. So here's the thing, guys. Today, we are going to be looking at what is the biggest myth about Bitcoin. And it's pretty simple, guys. I recently did an interview with 8 different people where I went to our local MLB team, the Atlanta Braves, SunTrust Park, interviewed people and asked them whether they would rather take cash, Bitcoin, or gift cards. It was $5 in cash, $10 gift card, or $15 in Bitcoin. I'll put the link to that video above so you can check it out. It's a really cool video, but something else came out of that video that I realized is that, yes, that was a fun little social experiment, and we're going to be doing a lot more of those on the channel, so I hope you guys enjoyed that content. It seemed to be well received. However, I really saw that people believe something about Bitcoin that's not true. Almost every single one of the people that we interviewed, either on camera or off camera, they said the same thing. What is Bitcoin? What is cryptocurrency? And they all said it is a digital currency, which it is. It is a digital currency. But they almost always said the next thing. They said, and it's untraceable. There's this idea that Bitcoin is not traceable. However, that's a myth. And some of you guys may have heard this. Maybe you've heard Bitcoin is traceable, but you don't really know what that means. And maybe others of you thought that your transactions were completely private and safe. And I'm going to explain to you why they are not and how we've seen that occur across the world in different ways, and then what could possibly be done about it. So here we go, guys. Is Bitcoin traceable? So one of the most commonly held beliefs is that people believe Bitcoin is traceable. So at one time it was untraceable because there was not enough personal information known about people that owned Bitcoin. If there were exchanges, they did not do KYC. Wallets had really nothing attached to them. However, that has really changed dramatically. Now, in the early days, of course, you probably have heard about Ross Ulbrich and Silk Road. It was a website on the dark web where you could buy and sell illicit things, illicit substances, weapons, all kinds of stuff, activities, services, yada, yada, yada. And of course, Ross ultimately went to prison and is serving a longer sentence than El Chapo, which is really crazy, but it is true. And, that was a lot of the Bitcoin transactions during that time. I'm quick to tell people I got into Bitcoin in 2012. However, I did not come through Silk Road like a lot of people during that time did. I did through another purchase of some software. So, the thing is at that time, 44% of Bitcoin transactions have been estimated to have been for illicit activities. So yes, in the early days of Bitcoin, that was a thriving business model for Bitcoin. However, over the last couple of years, that number has dropped to as low as 1%, some people say. The answer is why? Well, because Bitcoin is traceable. That's exactly why. Cash is safer to use. It's much more safe for those kinds of transactions because cash really is untraceable in a lot of ways. But Bitcoin is. Now, what has happened to Bitcoin that's made it traceable? Well, absolutely nothing. There's nothing that's actually happened to the Bitcoin code. There have been some things that have happened to the code, but nothing that has made Bitcoin more traceable or less private. Now, in the future, something that could be done about this, if we did want to, make Bitcoin traceable or untraceable again, would be to add a new kind of protocol, a privacy protocol that can make transactions private. I'm going to explain to you in a little bit why I don't think that will happen. But right now, that's not the case. There are even companies like Chainalysis and CipherTrace that specialize in finding these, bad actors in the world that are using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency addresses for negative things. So there's actually companies out there actively trying to track hackers' addresses, drug smugglers' addresses, human trafficker addresses, all of those things. So it's not a very fruitful system for people like that to take advantage of anymore. So why is this? What has happened? We've got these companies, but it doesn't answer the question. How has this happened? Well, KYC regulations have changed everything. So as adoption rises, the scrutiny rises, the regulations that are expected rise, and that has led to know your customer procedures known as KYC, in which customers had to fill out forms, show documents, hold up passports and pictures of their face and things like that. That's me with my face. I don't know why I did that. That made no sense. However, it is true. People have to do that. They have to send that stuff into a lot of these companies. So right now, there are possibly, or they're estimated to be 27 million Bitcoin addresses that actually hold Bitcoin. Now, out of that 27 million, several million of those are at Coinbase. And Coinbase requires know your customer procedures, KYC. So we know there's several million addresses right there that already have names associated with them. The government is coming to these exchanges and asking for the information because the government knows this is like a big brain teaser. If they can just kind of solve what this address is and who this address belongs to, over time, they can eventually figure out, I'm not going to say the majority of the Bitcoin addresses, but a huge amount of them. And if they target an address and want to know exactly who this is, they will probably be able to figure it out by tracking back the incoming transactions in those addresses and the outgoing transactions in those addresses. You can kind of think of it like a sweater. It just has a small thread. It just needs a small run in it. And if you just pull that and keep pulling, if you have a sweater, you know it will totally wreck it. It will destroy the entire sweater. And that is what the government is trying to do with these addresses. Not necessarily destroy the Bitcoin network, but by pulling at threads here or there, they're able to unravel entire webs of crime syndicates and hacker groups. They've done this frequently. We just had it. It just happened. 3 Chinese nationals had their Bitcoin and Litecoin addresses basically revealed and blacklisted. So any address that is sent to one of those addresses or received from one of those addresses is now a target. So is that a bad thing? They're drug smugglers. They're, money launderers. No, obviously that's not a bad thing. There's also another unto itself, it's not a bad thing. There's another situation that happened called the SamSam attack, which was ransomware that was dumped on cities across America, including my hometown of Atlanta, and that they basically, in exchange for Bitcoin, would release the computer systems. And they were doxxed by the Department of Justice. They gave their Bitcoin addresses and their names, said they were Iranians, and gave as much information about them as possible, and warned people, do not do anything with these addresses. So the fact is, guys, Bitcoin is traceable. There is nothing about it at this point that makes it untraceable. Now, will we see it in the future? Will we see Bitcoin once again be private? I don't believe so. While there are talks of adding privacy protocols such as Mimblewimble to Bitcoin, I don't think we'll see that because that will provide that will bring much more scrutiny on Bitcoin. And while we know, right, that Bitcoin, you can't ban it, you can't stop it, it's open source, it's just computer code. We know all that. However, the people who own it can be targeted. And I think that the Bitcoin community might be willing to take that trade-off at this point where we're at in the political world, in the globe, global uncertainty. We'll take that trade-off in order to keep the scrutiny off of individuals, because if people own Bitcoin and they know the government is going to come after them for owning it, if it's basically a privacy coin, which is what a privacy function would, kind of put it in that basket, even if it's optional, then I don't think that's what people want. People don't want to see that added scrutiny where basically the government is coming after people that own Bitcoin. That is going to definitely prevent adoption. That's definitely going to prevent people from wanting to get involved in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And that would also, once again, make it much more easily used in illicit activities. So we're always fighting this battle of wanting freedom, wanting decentralization, and also wanting to be free, or between wanting to be free and adoption, right? Between decentralization and adoption. That's what it boils down to. We probably, at this point in history, are not going to be able to have both. We're not going to be able to have full privacy and decentralization where none of our transactions are ever tracked and nobody knows what we're doing, and adoption. Unfortunately, those two things are not going to go hand in hand at this moment. However, I do think that we do have the responsibility in the crypto community to educate people that are outside of the community and let them know. Like when someone says, oh yeah, that's that untraceable money, correct them. Say, no, actually it is traceable. There are privacy coins. There's a lot of, scrutiny and regulation on, or probably coming regulation on those. But Bitcoin itself, it actually is traceable. Now, you may not want to go into the fine details and explain it all to them, but the fact is we have to educate people on what exactly is true and is not true with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin being untraceable is the biggest myth I have seen people believe about Bitcoin. So you let me know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that one day we will see Bitcoin being private again, that we will see, some kind of protocol added to the code to make that happen? Or do you think we're just good with where we're at? It's okay if it's traceable. It does prevent crime syndicates and things like that, and you're willing to take that trade-off. Let me know. Drop that down in the comments below. BitBoy out.